Well, TxDOT data shows that there's been a 500% increase in motorcycle accident deaths in the Tri-County area. As you may remember, the department started an initiative to make drivers more aware of motorcyclists, but it turns out most of these deaths are being caused by the bikers themselves. Our Madeline Dart shares what our motorcycle community is doing to stop this.
For these people, riding motorcycles is a way of life, which can quickly change without proper driving skills.
I lost a really good friend who was riding right behind me. We all did. We were all in that group together.
After learning about the massive increase in motorcycle deaths, these riders are urging the importance of
to ride better, safer, survive.
Sherry Lane recalls the heartbreak after losing a friend on the road, which is why she's spearheading these efforts in addition to TxDOT.
This is a passion that overflows. I need to save my neighbors and friends the best I can. Our other choices do nothing, and that's not acceptable.
Tanya Gonzalez is the Texas commander of the Coalition of Independent Riders. She says it's time for bikers to take responsibility for their actions on the road.
But what we realized is that we have a responsibility as motorcycle riders for some of these fatalities. Only 4 of them had motorcycle licenses. Alcohol has been a factor in some of the cases.
TxDOT official Jude Snyder shares the passion for riding with these fellow bikers. He says motorcycle safety starts with
riding pants, riding jacket, riding boots, helmets, and gloves. The only thing between you and a trip to the hospital is whatever gear you wear that day.
Snyder and his fellow bikers encourage everyone to practice their survival skills on the road in addition to investing in proper safety gear. They say it could be the difference between life and death in an accident. Madeline Dart, 3 News.